Oh, I'm freezing. It's okay. I'm freezing, y'all. I see it freezing, but it's okay. We might can edit this. Hey. We are live, and you might see my background looking different because I am traveling today. I am in the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. Yes, the show must go on, and I committed to doing this live today because this is exciting what we're going to be talking about today. Myself, and I'm bringing another grant writer on to talk about questions that people ask us all the time as grant writers and as nonprofit advisors. I just did a couple of workshops last week where there were people who came on that wanted to be grant writers. And so a lot of the questions were about that. Like I told you, I'm in the airport. You're going to be getting the background. Let's bring Melanie to the stage. We're going to go ahead and bring my co-host to the stage because she's going to have to be talking sometimes when I get this background noise. So today we got Melanie Campbell. She is the president of Hire It Out. And as you can see, she is live here with me. But together combined, we have over 50 years of grant writing experience. Melanie is a virtual office assistant, fundraising consultant, you name it. She does it all. So, Melanie, I'm probably going to have you lead a lot of this conversation today. You're on mute or something.
Oh, I just haven't said anything yet. I was waiting for the airport to talk. The biggest question we always get is like, how did you get started? And for me, I got started by an accident. I went in for an admin position and they asked, can you write? And I thought, well, that's duh. And I wrote my first paragraph and I've been writing ever since. That would be my best suggestion, is to volunteer your services if you don't already go through one of the courses that are offered at some of the colleges, which is another different thing that's happened. Whenever I started 20 plus years ago, there was not certificates and degrees available. There was a class or two, and a book, lots of books.
Right. There were a lot of college degrees now. You can get a certificate in nonprofit management. There's all kinds of degrees now. But how I started was because I started my own nonprofit and I didn't know who to ask. And so I started doing everything on my own. I did my own 501c3. I started writing my own grants because I couldn't afford to hire anybody. Just like a lot of you who are new and you come to us and you say, I don't have the money, but I need a grant. And so we hear that a lot, right, Melanie? I don't have the money, but I need a grant. And so as a nonprofit founder, executive director, it's best that you immerse yourself into the field of grant writing. Take some classes, take courses, as many as you can so you can learn. Because whether you do it or not, when you sit down with a grant writer, they're still going to have to pull that information from you. So it's best that you know what you need to know in order to get these grants. You want to ask that, Melanie?
Yeah, because a lot of people start a nonprofit with their heart, but they don't realize that you need to be treating it like a business. And there are a lot of different components that go into grant writing. It doesn't, just don't ask for money. It's, how do you justify what you're doing and how do you prove where my money's being spent is what most funders want to know. And then the whole grant writing process in itself, there's a whole nother animal there, because grant writing can be as simple as 1-page questionnaire online to federal grants, which are anywhere between 50 to 100 pages. I would actually also say to go look at the actual grants that you're wanting to go for, just so you can get an idea of what questions they're going to ask and then what components they want. Like what kind of things that they want you to submit to them. Yeah. Because some people do not have like a 990 or an audited financial. If you're a smaller nonprofit, those are things you don't do.
Exactly. You said a lot. You said a mouthful right there. So having them go look at the grants, that's very, very key. Even if you're not ready for, everybody wants that $1 million grant. Somebody just reached out to me recently, won, a $2 million grant, but they had nothing in place, nothing in writing, no 990s, none of this things that you need to be grant ready. And you hear that word a lot, being grant ready. But why don't you go look at these grants and see the criteria, the RFPs, request for proposal. Look at the criteria, look at what they're asking you, and start gathering that information. Because once again, when you get with the grant writer, they're going to be pulling the information from you or asking you for these details. Let me see your annual budget. Let me see your program budget. And if you don't have that, then that's something that's going to take more time for the grant writer to work with you so you can develop these things. And it's going to cost you money. So it's just best to get ready on your own. As we say, get grant ready on your own. You want to add anything else to what I just said, Melanie?
Yeah, because when you're reading the RFP, you can get so many tips and clues because unfortunately, a lot of people run their nonprofits and they know what they do, but then you've got to be able to explain it to the grant writer so that the grant writer can put it into the actual grant and answer the questions.
That's good. You know, I mean, for those of you who just joining and watching this on the replay, I'm at the airport. I'm streaming from the airport, so you might hear some background noise. But Melanie, let's share some success stories that we have seen with people who've gotten grants and the things they've been able to do. I'll start with, well, I'm going to start first of all with me. In 1997, actually, when I said I wrote grants for myself, my first grant I wrote was for somebody else. And this was for a lady, I'll never forget. Her name was Ruthie Williams. She had a transition home for women who were getting out of prison. She was the chaplain at the Orange County Correctional Institution here in Orlando. And she had never gotten a grant. She was always using her own money. And so when I applied for the grant, it was from Eckerd's. Is Eckerd drugstore still around? I don't know if Eckerd's drugstore. Yeah, there's Walgreens and CVS. Yeah, right. So that's how long ago it was. That should tell you how long ago it was. But it was Eckerd's drugstore. And they gave out a grant. And that was her first grant. And that was the first one that I wrote. And when I wrote that for her, it gave me the confidence, first of all, to know that, I could do this. And it gave her a boost of, motivation. She was able to do things. They sent her on a retreat for nonprofit executive directors. So that just kind of lifted her spirit, gave her some more tools that she can use being a nonprofit executive because she talked to other nonprofits. And I can go on and on, but that was like the first grant that I wrote. And then the second one was for myself when I had Able Community Kitchen School. So I'm going to let you take it over because we got some microphones coming over.
For me, my first grants, the best thing is whenever you actually get funded. You can write grants and you can write and write and write. You're not always going to get funded, so be prepared for rejection. I consider it kind of like online dating because you just never know. Sorry. But it is. So you write a grant and you may or may not hear back whether or not you got funded. That's the bad thing. But, that's the nonprofit world. That's why I consider it part of like online dating. But once you get that first grant, yeah, you get all jazzed up and you're like, okay, I can do this. Let's go. Let's keep going.
That is so true. It does give you a boost. And so I would say for the new nonprofits, start with what I hear all the time, that low hanging fruit where you can get those $1,000 grants or even 500 or even in-kind donations. So let's talk about that a little bit because everybody's looking for the money, money, money. But if somebody will donate you a building rather than giving you $100,000 to buy a building, would you take it? Yeah. So let's talk about that. How important in-kind donations are, Melanie, and some of the ways that people can ask for those versus asking for money.
So one of the things I always tell nonprofits is to look at their operational budget and their program budget to see where they're spending their dollars. So one good example is here in Orlando, we have a food pantry and they have actually gone to restaurants and asked for the surplus. So at the end of the night, whenever the restaurants are closing, they have extra food, they donate it. That's a perfect example of getting in kind. Another example is going to, say, Target. They used to fund children. I haven't written to them in a while, but they used to actually donate books. So what is it that you're spending your money on? And look at that and possibly go and get that in kind instead.
That's good. That's good. Now I want to talk about impact and measurements. When you're getting these donations, whether it's an in-kind donation, please start writing down what impact that donation is making, because you're going to use that same information to put on another grant, because they want to know, okay, if we give you this money, what is this money going to do? Who is it going to help? What difference is it going to make? And after you spend it, tell us what happened, when once you spent the money, so we can give you more money. So let's talk about some, yeah, go ahead, Melanie.
And also, another thing that you need to think about is the fact that this impact can be part of your outcomes and measurements. So utilize that. So you went and did a food drive, and you were able to feed 50 families. Out of those families, 20 of them had kids. These are things that you need to be tracking, because that way, when you go back to the funder, you can give them detailed information, and sometimes funders will give you more money just for being on point and giving them, really good data.
So true. So go ahead. Yeah, go, because I want you to forget that thought.
Because they want to be giving to someone who will actually utilize the money and be able to go back to their board and say, we gave to XYZ nonprofit and they did this with it. That makes them look better, and it makes the board happy. So you got to think about kind of like the little whole circle of funding.
Yeah. So I want to get ready to end with this. We got a couple more things. People who want to become grant writers. That's a big question. And like I said, the last workshop I did, I think it was Thursday, there were several people there that say, hey, I want to learn how to write grants. Maybe your job is getting ready to end. Maybe you want to transition to another career. But being a grant writer is very rewarding. So let's talk about what advice you would give to somebody who's looking to start a career or do this pro bono or just as a passion project. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say two ways. One, do not expect to get paid right away unless you work for the nonprofit. If you're on the board, that might be a good way to do it, and on volunteering. And as a member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, it is against the code of ethics to ever have anybody say, okay, I want to come in and do grant writing, but I'm like, you can pay me a percentage of it. Does that make sense?
That's right. That's right. And for those of you who are watching this on the replay, feel free to send your questions in, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook. And by the way, if you're on Facebook, make sure you leave your comment. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and like. I don't know what the background noise is because it's not me, right? I know I'm at the airport, but it sounds like I'm in a grocery store or something. But thank you guys for watching. I'm going to leave with one more thought. What do you think? No, I want to leave something. When you talked about if you want to become a grant writer, one of the questions this one girl asked me is about charging people. And I know you said don't expect to get paid right away, but I think if you have some type of expertise, you've been writing, you have great writing skills, you work with nonprofits. This one young lady who I was speaking with, she had been a church administrator for many, many, many years. So she was familiar with a lot of stuff. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe just ask for a nominal fee for your time, because you will spend hours and hours of just doing research alone, trying to find a match for this nonprofit. You want to add to that, Melanie?
Yeah, be upfront with the nonprofit and let them know, this is my first grant. I do have experience with writing, or I have experience in the industry, especially the lady who worked for churches, if she's writing for churches. But be upfront with them that, look, this is my first one. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I still get the question, so how successful are you? And I track my own data. So how many grants have I written? How many have actually gotten funded? So my data is I'm 62% funded rate. And that's something that a lot of nonprofits want to know, because they don't want to waste their time, but they also realize that if they don't give you the opportunity, then they're never going to have that opportunity to have a grant written. And there's a lot of nonprofits out there who've never written a grant because it's scary to them. But writing a grant, really, once you start doing it, it's like riding a bicycle.
That's powerful, Melanie. You just shared a lot. So there's one thought I had while you were talking, because I'm always thinking, you know how me and you are. We just be on the phone talking about grants all day long. But let's talk about some of the challenges new nonprofits make in securing funding and how they can navigate that, because most people, when they start a nonprofit, they think that 501c3 is going to be a magnet. They're going to automatically get grants. People are going to automatically say yes because you're 501c3, and it doesn't happen that way. So let's talk about some of the challenges new nonprofits face, and I will start with that getting that funding, because you have no history. And a lot of times, I'm going to use, for example, Miss Ruthie. She was a chaplain at a prison. She talked to women all the time. She had a house of her own that she allowed women to come stay in. So she herself had history. And so sometimes you can weave your own personal history of helping people into the story of your nonprofit until your nonprofit has built up the business history. So you want to add to that, Melanie, or anything else?
Yeah, a lot of people do start a nonprofit after they've been doing it for a couple of years. And unfortunately, they don't track everything, but sometimes they do. That's the thing, is that if you can track how much you've been doing and what your experience is, then that is awesome. But also just being honest with yourself that we have to build this up. You don't come out of the womb and all of a sudden start running marathons. You kind of have to build it up, and you also have to get all of the pieces and parts together. And that's what's going to be talked about on March 26th.
Yes, girl, you've been dropping some jewels. And speaking of that, it is March 25th. Melanie is
March
going
25th.
to be doing a grant writing class. Go to grantwriting yes.org. Is think you're grant ready? That is a question. Do you think you're grant ready? Well, if you're not, you need to come to this workshop. The cost is only $47. That's less than taking two people out to dinner or lunch. $47. Come on, go ahead and sign up at Grant Writing School. We just had one a week ago. It was a small, intimate class. Like, everybody on that class was from New York City. I was like, New York is in the house. So we want you to come. It's virtual, it's online. So wherever you're at, you can come. It's 7 p.m., March 25th. Again, it's $47. Go to grantwritingschool.org and sign up. We want to see you there. I'll be there because I'm always learning from Melanie. Even though I've been doing this for over 20 years, I'm constantly learning. I'm learning from my peers. I'm learning by reading. I'm learning by doing research. So you can never learn enough about this nonprofit world or grant writing world. So I'm going to let you leave with final thoughts, Melanie.
Just to be prepared. I mean, you can do it. It's not as difficult as everybody thinks it is. I love when people say, "Oh, you're a grant writer. You're like a unicorn." I'm like, no, really, I'm not. Grant writing is just telling your heart passion and getting it out on the paper. That's it.
And knowing your numbers. Keep track of those numbers, people. Keep track of
Yes.
those numbers. Yeah. I want to thank you for watching us today. Again, make sure you subscribe and give the thumbs up to the YouTube video. We on Monday, next Monday, March 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks, Melanie, for being here. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
For Jermaine being in the background. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.